Hey, totally stoked to get a little time with you and uber excited. We are starting a brand new series called Nomad Living. You're like, Nomad Living? What's that all about? Well, I was thinking about nomads. Nomads, their home goes with them, whether it's a mobile home or a tent. And there are, case in point, communities and pockets of people groups throughout history that are nomads. The Bedouins, I think of the Bedouins in the Middle East, tend to be a little bit nomadic. And actually, I was thinking about this just before we started. The first nomad in the Bible was actually Cain. If you remember, God cursed him and said, you're going to wander the earth, not have like a permanent home. So you're like, why are we talking about nomads? Because I think it's really important for us to consider home is important. Home and having a place that we can call home is very significant for us, because hopping from place to place to place to place sometimes can be draining, disorienting, discombobulating. So let's think about this in terms of David. Because David, King David, if we read about him, you can read about him in 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. He's an interesting dude because he hopped around a lot, especially after he killed Goliath. In fact, for almost 20 years, he was on the run, in essence. He was living a nomadic life, and he was doing it to run away, keep away from Saul, King Saul, who was trying to kill him. And so David wound up staying in lots of different places for various amounts of times. But some of the places that David lived included, there's a place called Nob, N-O-B, and that was one of the first places David stopped to gain supplies. And there he got some bread, got some food. And if I remember right, he even took on Goliath's sword because he was in such a hurry to get away from King Saul. He didn't have any weapons, so he took Goliath's sword. But this was Nob, his first place on this nomadic living. And I don't think David had any idea in mind how long this experience would last. He just knew, I'm running for my life, and if I want to stay alive another day, I have to move because I don't want King Saul, to catch me. If he does, he's going to kill me. So he was on the run. The next place that David went after Nob was Gath, G-A-T-H. And that's interesting because that was the hometown of Goliath. Goliath, the giant that he killed. And if you've done any research, you'll know that there were also Goliath's relatives were in Gath, which I find really interesting. David was running away from King Saul, but he ran into the hometown of Goliath where all of his relatives were, and David felt more safe in Gath than running away from. So it's just interesting because sometimes why we run or why we're nomadic is very important for us to consider. Why am I hopping from place to place, place to place? There's sometimes something in us that's driving us or compelling us, and we have to think about that. And for David, it was a lot of fear. It was basically to stay alive. After Gath, David went to the cave of Adullam, right? Like what? But at the cave of Adullam, this is when a bunch of people started joining David. All the depressed, the distressed, and the distraught. I call them the triple Ds. They came to David at the cave of Adullam. And now David begins to have a big following of people, but there are all these people who are, disenfranchised, if you will. But they come to David. And again, he's running for his life. So now, not only is he running for his life, now he's got to provide leadership for a group of people who aren't always super happy. They're already depressed and distraught. So now he's got people, plus he's running from, so he's got responsibility. So David goes from the cave of Adullam to Ziklag. I know, where do they come up with these names? It's a foreign language, so that's how. Ziklag was in the home area of the Philistines. The Philistines were the enemy to the Israelites. So in Ziklag, David kind of came to this conclusion. If I stay in Israel, if I can't maintain my life, Saul will find me. He will hunt me down. He's persistent, he's determined, and he's going to do everything he can to kill me. So if I stay in this homeland, I know that eventually I will die because he will find me. And I cannot continue to outrun him if I stay in this homeland. So David moved to Ziklag, which was the enemy of Israel. And at Ziklag, he became super loyal to that king. And he stayed there, and the king gave him this town called Ziklag. And so David and all of his followers settled in and basically created their own hometown. And David stayed there for probably almost 2 years. And that was maybe the longest he stayed in any one place over the course of this almost 20 years of running away, nomadic existence. But I bring all this to your attention because I think when David was running, and he was running for his life in those 18 years, he wrote some incredible psalms. And in that nomadic experience, season of his life, he zeroed in with God, and his roots with God went extremely deep. And a lot of the Psalms that you read, especially in the first, 20, 30, 40 Psalms, chapters of Psalms, a lot of those are from David and when he was running away from Saul. And you can see his heart and what he's experiencing, but more importantly, you can see his connection with God. Whoa, stop. Hold on just a second. We have a joke break. I know, right? This is your joke. Why don't aliens visit our planet? Because it has terrible ratings. Only 1 star. It's so bad, right? It goes with my shirt. Oh no, not another dad joke. And so if you're in a season where you're like nomadic, I think number one, figure out what's happening in here. Why am I hopping and popping and zooming around and going all these? Why am I not settled or stationary? What is that? Some of it might be just how you think, which is okay too. But if there's something inside that's angst and uncomfortable, then maybe sit with that for a little bit. And at the same time, think about putting some roots down with God and letting this season, this time of hopscotch, bumping around, let it be a deep time for you with God. One of my favorite verses in the Bible is Psalms 42, verse 7. Deep calls to deep, and your waves and waterfalls have swept over me. I find that God can use nomadic experiences, seasons, to help us to very much go deeper, more connected, and have a more intimate, dependent relationship with God. So I'm just super stoked because as we go through this Nomad series, we're going to be talking about what that looks like in your life. And I'm really excited for you to watch next week because we're going to be talking about Jesus. And was Jesus a nomad? Got to watch next week.